And
Hello,
welcome. Welcome
Ricky.
to our live Q&A, our weekly live Q&A. So a little bit of business to cover today. We are going to be, Crystal and I are on the move again, and we will be not available to do a live next week. So we're going to take a pause next week, and we'll see you here in 2 weeks' time for our Tuesday live Q&As. And also, we wanted to let you know that we are extending the fall sale for an additional 2 weeks. So originally, the fall sale was going until the 10th of October, and it's actually going to be carried over to the 24th of October. So if you have the coupon code, and you can locate that in the links below, check that out, and those coupons are still valid for the sale discount till the 24th of October. Hi, Anita. Welcome, welcome.
Hello. So glad to be here with you both today.
So Ricky is bringing us right into the fold, right into literally, technically, the eye of the storm. And we are so aware and feeling so much potent energy and tremendous compassion for all of those of you who are in these locations. Hi, Laura.
Hello, Laura.
So
I do want to say that I just before coming on, I saw that it had been upgraded to a 5 in less than 24 hours. So it was like faster than usual for sure. I don't know if it's record breaking fast, but it's it's been stepped up you know, after our last live, I was really feeling into things we talked about, but also in general, what we've talked about over time, how potent things are getting, and that please know that we know this. And even though we like to infuse love, light, and laughter through what we're doing, we do really feel the weight and the seriousness of the things that we pull on here, and the things that we talk about.
True.
But it is something we'll look into. I just wanted to say that for everyone to keep that in mind, that while we hold reverence and we do send out love and light, that we also want to remember to do self-care for our vessels, so that it doesn't weigh us down too heavily as we observe what's going on.
Yeah. Thank you, Anita. So true.
Well, this is so interesting that you're speaking about, you know, it's how do we hold it together? How do we hold it together in our minds without it becoming this kind of where we shut our minds to, I just keep feeling into, like, we've got this page of cups as us. So on the beautiful part of things, we are being, you know, brought to our knees and brought into a real true state of, I want to say, presence and vulnerability. So the emotional part feels in a way very potent and very potentially healing, but the mental part could really, this is where we could get into a lot of stuck energy that doesn't serve us. Because if you think about responding, if you are in these places, if you're in Florida, if you're down in these different areas in the southeastern United States that are being impacted by these ongoing, you know, hurricanes, unprecedented types of hurricanes, it feels like we can just freeze, right? When we think about crisis, you have the options of, what is it? Fight, flight, or freeze. And I think that we get into this state of freeze, and that is what we want to work with, is how to move beyond that state of freeze. So I'm just going to pull some cards past, recent past. Yeah.
Hello, Alexandra. Welcome from
Present.
Florida.
Oh, wow. Look at that. So
Mm.
we've got the Fool in the recent past. We've got, you know, this is opened up in a way. It's also the portals of this time of year, because we're coming into the time of year, all these eclipses. And then, of course, we know that the end of October, we celebrate, you know, Halloween here in you know, the Western world, the Northern Hemisphere. But it's actually linked to a long standing traditional seasonal recognition that the veils are very thin at this time. So something about the storms happening exactly at this time that coincides with the veils being extremely thin. And on the good part of that is we are literally opening the portals to receive so much spiritual guidance. And, you know, I call this the ancestor card, among many other things, this high priestess. And so the portals are opening. And as we are faced with this vulnerability of our mortality, it's also an opportunity for us to really connect with our departed ancestors. So it's powerful. It's a powerful time. Yep. And boy, oh boy, it looks like it's for real, folks. It looks like it is going to be quite a serious, I want to say kind of like a kind of a shamanic rite of passage.
Yeah.
And let's see how we can support you all. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Wow. Look at that. Okay. So the
Interesting.
advice is the Sun and the Nine of Swords. So we've got the Fool in the recent past, almost like we've just been going on our merry way, kind of going, well, this could never happen here, or this could never happen to me, or I've got other things to focus on. And then this is suddenly like, sort of like the shamanic gates have been opened, and all the big picture of our lives and our mortality have been opened. And then we get the moon, which is, it will take us all to a place of facing our fears. And then we've got Sun and Nine of Swords. What are you feeling about that, Crystal? What do you interpret that is about in terms of advice?
I feel like there's going to be a lot of fear propaganda that's going to be put out around it. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of information that's going to be received that's really going to freak people out, potentially. And yet there is like a real upgrade that comes from the entirety of all that's being kind of shaken down right now, and the rebuild that happens from it, and the new systems that are created, and the new ways of looking at things. I just feel like there's a whole new lightness that's coming in from it, and it's like the opportunity here, so interesting. You look at the two sides, right? Just bound by structure and our thoughts and our programming, and then the opportunity here with, yes, the fact that this could be coming in and it could all be going down is like pushes us into new ways of thinking and being curious and being supportive and caring towards each other. And when we're forced to step up, it's almost like we're being pushed back into our like childlike selves, because we have to release a certain amount of control. And that's an initiation, no matter how you look at it.
That is an initiation for sure. Anita, what did you pull on this, dear?
Okay, so working with my new deck that I've created, and I'm playing with how I'm working with it. And so what I looked at is, as I did last week, where similar to the chakra system, red energy was coming up. So it was feeling like, you know, very foundational, and which makes a lot of sense, right? You need everything to feel, that's everything you need to feel safe and secure with what's going on, whether you're present there or not, because of course we do feel strongly for others. And in conjunction with that, from my action cards, and these ones are all words, but it's spiritual action. So it was really feeling like when I saw that, it like the whole chakra system was being called upon. As we've talked
Mm.
about before, it's like both ends. The spiritual action was feeling like it was calling on the crown chakra to work with the root chakra and everything in between. So really,
Mhm.
how do we find that balanced neutrality while what it says on the spiritual action card in the envisioning, the conscious breathing, and kind words to self and others, and similar to what
Mhm.
Ricky was saying, putting out there, right, where putting out that peaceful breath for
Mhm.
others, that calming energy. And then as I pulled a little further on it, interesting little pattern, there's like listen, so listening to your deep within, as opposed to the uh, fight or flight or freeze, as you acknowledged. It's going deeper within. What is the greater picture, the initiation of it? What is this serving for
Mhm.
us to move through it, even though it feels like it's something that's being put upon us? It
Mhm.
Where can we find that deep rootedness within ourselves? And then the next piece to that was allowing space. So to some
Mhm.
extent, that we're needing to acknowledge the boundaries of what we are able to work with energetically and what we're put into observation mode around. So
Mhm.
really allowing that, again, that connects with that rite of passage, that
Mhm.
acknowledging that it's not our choosing, but how are we going to connect with it. And the next card I pulled on that was authenticity, right? So
Mm. Thank you, Anita, because I feel like almost that we learn a lot about our authentic selves in crises.
Truly.
We find where we're weak and we find where we're strong, and we learn about each other in crises as well. So I think about the times when I've been in some sort of an environmental or social crisis situation. Not a lot, but I've had a couple of instances of that in my life. And you really feel it's almost like a lot of things just fall away. You become it's like you're on some kind of shamanic journey, and you really feel what matters, and that like suddenly a whole new gear emerges and you operate on this, if you can stay. And that's what I was saying about, where are you coming from? Let's look at the cards again for a sec. Where are you coming from? If you go into this mode, you can't think clearly at all. But if you actually allow a deeper part of yourself to emerge, a more natural, almost instinctual part to emerge, everybody knows exactly what to do. Like people, a lot of times crisis brings out the most extraordinary strengths in all of us. So it feels like this is an opportunity, almost like a bit of a test. Now I'm looking at timing with this, and it's interesting. I feel like it could be hitting at night, this storm, because of the moon. And by the morning, it's cleared because we've got the sun after about 8 or 9 hours. So my feeling is that you're going to be going through about 8 or 9 hours. And it feels like it could even, because of that the priestess, I don't know, like, is it hitting 2 o'clock in the morning or so? I just really feel like it's going through this time of between like maybe midnight to 2 a.m. It really gets ramped up. And then by the morning or midday the following day, it's like clear. So that's something to also be aware of. And Ricky is saying many humans don't have the means of escape of the storm, and that'll cause fear. So again, this is where we're looking at, we can't all take responsibility for everybody, but if you do have someone in your neighborhood, someone that is vulnerable, and you can provide them more shelter than what they can provide for themselves. Like if everybody just cared for one person, if every family just cared for one person that's vulnerable, you know, we don't all have to open our homes to the streets, but it feels like it is compelling us to dig a little deeper. And, you know, I'm not saying this from some high horse. I would do it. I would honestly do it if it were me. And funny that I said the word high horse, because it reminds me of when I lived up in the north. I lived up in the Yukon a lot of years ago. And there was this code of ethics up there that under certain circumstances with the extreme weather, like you'd be dead in a minute and a half if you were outdoors in the elements and not protected during certain weather conditions up there. And there was you just had to open your door to people. You had to. It was like, it was considered like if you didn't open your door to someone in that situation, next spring you're evicted from the community. So I know it's different. We're living in cities that are just jam-packed with homeless people and a lot of mental illness and addictions and so on. It's very complex, but it feels like just putting our head in the sand and saying it's too big for me to do anything is also not the answer. We really want to say, you know, it could help even if you just team up with another person and say, look, you know, come to my house because I have more of this and we'll weather the storm together. What are you feeling about that, Anita?
Yes, I mean, very, very powerful what you're putting forth, and interesting that a lot of what we're being put through right now feels like human trials of our faith and our trust and our discernment, because that it's what we're really being guided to step into our authentic selves with that card coming up, and what is the true human nature that we can tap into, uh, not a past one that was all about not being community minded, but moving forward to really be where, you know, it's where we go one, we go all, but also by the grace of God, there go I. As you know, I'm not someone who's religious or raised that way, but every now and then there's a biblical quote that comes through. We do know that it is a sacred text that has been messed with, but there is nuggets of wisdom within it. And yeah, it could be any of us at any time. So having heart for that.
Totally.
Also, what you were saying about that timing sounds pretty accurate. I heard the ports are closing at midnight in their local time. So that is speaks to that. And there's one thing, there's a quote that I heard in the summer from, well, kind of an undercover agent actually, but it's interesting. Every setback is a step forward in disguise. It is in the darkest moments that the light shines the brightest. So
Thank you, Anita. Are you able to put that in the chat? Can you take a minute and put that?
I wish I have to log in, but it's something we could add in descriptor after. And
Sure,
you know?
let's do that. That would be lovely.
So yeah, it's someone who's kind of like working undercover that, you know, revealing information slowly, and it speaks to a lot of what you were just acknowledging, that what people go through, initiation, a trial by fire, something how that forces us to look at what's really important in the big picture of things, not being lost in our day-to-day distractions really, but getting us to let's make sure people are cared for, shelter, food,
Totally.
you know, a warm heart. These are the things that are most important
Mhm.
always, but these situations can really make it heightened for everyone so that they can carry that energy moving forward and it not just be about the crisis moment or moments.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, here's another question about Acapulco being hit with a hurricane. No one is talking about that one. Let's have a look at that. And just before I close this down, I want to pull a couple more cards about what to focus on here. So two, you know, I'm also kind of feeling like, when is this ending? When is all this hurricane madness ending? And yeah, I'm getting somewhere between 9 days and 2 weeks. Like it's coming to a close. I don't know. It somehow seems like it's linked to the financial system as well. And maybe more will come up about that by individuals asking questions about that. But it does feel like there's some connection between the financial systems and so how much longer is this happening? And yeah, I'm getting like another couple of weeks. So
Okay, I
yeah,
can start with Acapulco.
yeah, go ahead.
You're switching over.
Yeah.
Interesting. I had 2 cards repeat. So starting with the chakra energy, the green. So in our hearts, right? Really being in our hearts over tuning in with what's happening everywhere, but specifically with asking about Acapulco at this moment. The next card that repeated is spiritual action. So really holding that energetic space of being connected to the bigger picture and staying that calm, centered energy space within our hearts. And then the next cards that came up, ask for help. So that feels really relevant here for those for those trying to understand it. And of course, this always means looking at the physical possibilities, but also connecting in with our benevolent creator God, guides, whoever it is that you work with. Keeping in mind, actually, while this is up, that for me, it feels really good to throw in benevolent as often as possible because of the energies that are being worked with and making sure that we're really aligning, because desperation can bring people to asking help from anywhere, but this is focused on benevolent help, which connects with what you were saying, Ashala, about opening our homes and and what that can mean when we're all opening up.
Well, and opening our homes, and also like our community of awake, like-minded people. And it just is making me think. I know there was that other storm that hit Acapulco a few months ago, and it was right around the time there's that gathering, that event. Let's see, it has the word anarchy and Acapulco put together, Anarchapulco or something like that. So it's basically a very potent group of individuals that live there that are looking at creating solutions to address all these ways that we're being kept in the, limited and oppressed in the system. And there was just like this gathering of really incredible minds working on solution stuff. And that's why it had the name anarchy in it, because it was like, we're taking back our rights, sovereign claims of, the individual human and sovereign rights and all that kind of stuff, and regenerative agriculture. And I was following that gathering. And then this big event, this big hurricane happened. And I think the gathering was canceled. I didn't follow up and see how it was impacted, but it really feels like almost this energy of every time we're pushed down, it's sort of like pruning a tree. We pop up, like it pushes people to go, oh, well, we were talking and we were getting together and having these nice little discussions, and now we are boots on the ground. We are like, it's pushing in a way the anarchy, which anarchy has a bad rep, that word, but I like to think about it as wild release. Like letting go of restrictions of playing it safe or being polite, right? It's like we're used to in our culture, like you have to be nice and quiet and polite and play it safe, and you can't just be like, rawr, I'm going to like step out. Revolution, my version of it is not about destructing or being violent or destructive. It's about being wild, creative, and courageous. So I feel like, yes, Acapulco is likely going to, and it's interesting you said that, Anita, about helping each other. And I was getting, you know, geographically, these two places are on either side of the continent, right? Pacific and Atlantic. So there's something really interesting energetically about that. Crystal, I'm going to get you to weigh in here on this.
And just what it ties in with what you were just saying. The other card I pulled is everything has purpose. So, you know, when we're looking at what does that mean, even what you're saying about anarchists and anarchist movements, it's that push. What it takes for someone to wake up and get into taking action, even if it's just initially thinking about things differently. This is what we've been invited to do over the last few years through, regardless of what source of action it's been. Has it been an agenda to oppress us or uplift us? Well, everything is being put on the table right now. So it doesn't matter which side it comes from. Here we are in the moment, dealing with what we need to deal with and holding that energy. And what repeated as well was then authenticity.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. After shuffling and going through, and it was like,
and
okay.
we've got the same two. Crystal, do you want to tell us the same two that you were talking about last time?
It was interesting you talking about anarchy, and I just see this Six of Pentacles, and it makes me think of Robin Hood. And, you know, an anarchist is kind of in the eye of the beholder. And like, you know, this Six of Pentacles here, this is all about reciprocity and generosity, and the distribution of wealth and tithing. And like, you know, I think that there's a push to be implementing a much more reciprocity driven existence, so that, you know, people, there isn't so much division in the people that can survive these things and the people that can't. And you know, so a little bit of anarchy could be just the recipe in a certain way, depending on how you look at it.
Totally. Oh my gosh. And look, we've got those same two, the Nine of Swords, about the bright day. So the day is brighter, things are lighter. There's something like, and when I think about this, the anarchy movement and this movement of awake people around the world saying, heck yeah, count me in. It's almost like we could be looking at something where we say, you know, certain people in our community, maybe they've lost everything. Maybe they've lost their homes. Let's get together. Let's not just get together on these truther channels and be like, you know, let's talk about Mr. T and the White Hats. It's like, let's get together and say, okay, we're gonna raise funds for these people, or we're gonna say, you know what, you can come and stay with me for a few months. Like, let's figure out ways that we can help each other as a community. And I mean, obviously, they're strangers. You can't just open your home to strangers, but you can at least say, come and stay for a week or two. And if we all sort of support each other, I think it's actually going to bring us into closer community connection, because it's like we're going to be forced to say, hey, you know how you said drop in anytime on the chat? Well, guess what? You're in the next state over, and I think I might need to come and visit. Right?
You know, I wish I had a name of this man who I saw TikTok. He posted, it's a man in Kentucky who has acreage, who's inviting anybody to come take refuge on his property, but I don't have his name handy. And but just knowing that there's that heart out there of exactly what we're talking about, where trying to relieve that pain for people, and that poignant feeling of, he kept saying in the little video, I don't have much, but you're welcome to what I have, you know.
Right. And it's often the people that don't have much that give most of what they have. So this is our, you know, dig in, folks. Like, look at the amount of money we raised for the convoy in Canada, right? Millions of dollars, millions. And this is, you know, we can be supporting each other. And I'm not just talking about like it gets really complicated. Where does the money go and who organizes it and all that sort of stuff? You know, let's get creative. This is the man, King of Swords, he's coming up with plans and solutions. He's putting this crises, or this series of crises, some people are going to put their thinking caps on, as my mom used to say, put your thinking cap on. They're going to put their thinking caps on and just be like, yeah, we've got some ideas of how we can make this work in our advantage. Okay, so we've got another question coming up here.
Cass.
About Etsy, is that?
No, Eby'S.
Cass.
Yeah, Cass.
Yeah.
Oh, Eby'S.
Yeah,
Eby'S. Sorry, I thought it said Etsy. I don't have my glasses on. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
We should look at Etsy as well.
Chip Wilson, Lululemon, posted a sign in front of his house. Eby'S will tell you the conservative are far right, but neglect saying that the NDP is communist. Can you pull cards on Eby'S' background?
Yeah. Okay. So that's where you want to take the focus, is on his background, because I had heard of this, and then of course Chip Wilson isn't without controversy. You know, I saw someone post in response something like the percentage of, you know, this much from like where all the manufacturing is, which none of it is local, and what do we know what kind of business practices are being, but he, at the same time, they're saying that, but I feel like when he got in trouble before, that he was somewhat ousted out of the company. So even though he was a founder and maybe has shares, I do feel like he doesn't have such a deep stake in the company anymore. That's just how people know him. But interesting. And I say that because people were responding to the fact that Chip Wilson posted it, as opposed to the words he was actually saying, or or how is that relevant to him? He lives in a multi-million-dollar waterfront estate, and how is this? But that can be that piece of everyone coming together, where what if it does matter to these multimillionaires, and they have the platform to shine a light on it?
Yes.
So
Okay,
it is worth looking into.
So 3 cards on Eby'S' background. Okay, so I just have to say I'm going to pull a couple of cards on Etsy after this, because I was looking across and I kept seeing Etsy because I don't have my glasses on. And I was like, oh, yeah, right? Like Etsy delivers to your door. Anyway.
Yeah, grassroots movements.
Right? So oh, wow. Okay, so it feels like Eby'S' background kind of playing both sides. Like kind of, I want to say maybe like someone in the middle between two sides, in the middle between two paradigms, kind of juggling, and you know, maybe feeling 8 of Wands in the past, maybe feeling the heat and knowing there's going to be a big inquiry into something here in the near future with that Judgment card. What do you see, Crystal?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
That's another interesting topic or lane to go in, given everything that's getting exposed right now and around people who are in the spotlights. And that is, you know, stars and athletes and millionaires, along with politicians, all of these high profile people, and who is working to make amends and possibly, again, shining a light on things through their platform, and who is just running scared because they know they've done things that are, well, and it can, again, it's like, doesn't matter where it originates if people are actually trying to help, at least now moving forward.
Yeah,
They still have to answer overall, big picture, they'll have to answer for their wrongdoings, their crimes, but yet that, you know, we've heard about people who are what is it? Controlled opposition is one of the terms that is used, you know, who, as far as where they might be originating their. So then this gets into, okay, we're looking at someone's background. It can be very different from where they are now, especially if they're playing a role, which we know. We hear about Trump, we hear about Trump 2.0, same with Elon Musk and Putin and so many of these big names that it's like, oh, it might not be their original path, at least, even if we don't know the story around who they are now. And yeah, what do you have there with those wands?
Well, I'm just saying, you know, definitely this person is like between a rock and a hard place.
It's interesting. I was totally seeing that, like, he came in like a little fish in a big pond. You can't see it here, but there's like this little boat on this side. And he came in like this, and now he's kind of like really riding the crest as like this big ship now. And it's like with that judgment card there, it's like sometimes these people don't really even understand the destiny path that they're undertaking by becoming these big entities in the world. And then they're just kind of like, whoa, they are just kind of like juggling all of this power. And pretty kind of crazy to feel the weight of that sometimes, and to know how to kind of hold ground in your existence after that. And as you said, Anita, like how, like what to do. I mean, this guy kind of assesses all of the like rods that he's put in the fire or whatever, and he takes the best of all that he's created and brings that forward into life and into reality. So I feel like there's going to be a forced somewhat of an up leveling and initiation that Eby'S going to have to kind of wake up and choose to do something different with his money and his power.
Choose a side, choose which way to go. Like this could also be grab the last rod and run for the hills too.
Yeah.
And like, I see this guy is looking, you see how he's looking back over, whoops, how do I put it there like that? He's looking over his shoulder and seeing like, this is the Mogul empire here, the big king of pentacles who has all the money and has all this like, and he's looking and going, oh, the house of cards is crumbling. And how do I just hold it together long enough to get out what I need to get out before I take what I have and run kind of thing. So I get a little bit that this person is just barely hanging in there and about to scrabble for the hills. But I would love to see what Crystal's describing as there's a choice always to say, you know what, I'm going to actually take the high road. So we'll see.
Interesting. So the cards that I pulled on it are all in my deck. There's somewhat of a technical lane, and all of them are. So it's this crossover between understanding that we are the most advanced tech. So working with what we are. And so this pulls on memory, right? But it's the image is in a way like just the same as a computing system pulls on memory. So when we're talking about his background, it feels like there's an internal conflict. There's similarities with what the cards you've pulled there, because it's this internal conflict and almost between being a human and fulfilling a role that is predestined in it's feeling technical, but it's more also someone else's choices, like his memories getting overlapped with. So that, and then the next piece, he's in this state of, this is large language model, which you can see at the top, anticipating next steps. And there's a lot of processing of information that's getting processed. It's going in.
This is just feeling really techie AI kind of feeling to me.
Yes. And that the fact that the whole of them are, it's like, is this AI driven, which then that gets into a whole other benevolent or not as well, because we know that both of those are running concurrently, and that's part of what needs to be untangled for us to move forward. We know that there's no putting the genie back in the bottle, but what does that look like? We need strong governance over this, And we're talking about a politician here. So there's a lot of prompts going in that are being sorted and then coming out. Remembering it can be through our divine vessel and it can be through AI. These and then moving forward, though, you had something about finances earlier. This is decentralized finance, is what's coming out through it. Yeah, yeah. So that there's this background of heart space and pulling on different memories that is being run through his system, but also there's feels like an external pressure of systems that might be yeah, artificial, somewhat artificial, darker agenda meeting the light agenda, but both feels like divine yet also AI. And maybe that's something, how do we get to divine AI if that's the inevitable path of moving forward, and then getting to decentralization, which is like overall that's what we would like for the big picture. So moving from his background into, well, his hand being forced a little, like you were saying, Crystal, that choice point that you feel that he's going to be facing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay. Do I get to quickly pull a couple cards?
Come on, Etsy. There are no accidents. There's everything is
And
perfect.
we have to just laugh about that. Like, I don't know what I was visualizing. I was like, oh, he's going to sign outside his door. So anything that's delivered from Etsy.
Well, but even everything that we talk about, decentral financing, or, how do you weather a storm? These small grassroots movements, whether it's helping each other or helping each other get their products out so that they're supporting their families, Etsy's beautiful for that. So it's so, oh, yeah. Well,
Wow. Oh, interesting. Okay. So, we're just looking here, I think, at a shifting model that is, it really feels a lot to me like some of the mission and the purpose around it. Like you said, Anita, there's a lot of good intention and potentially good, I want to say, like win-win reciprocity in this system. But it feels like it wants to be taken into a new area or arena or way of exchange, and it feels very feminine where we're going. So I don't know how that translates exactly, but it feels like it's beyond just exchanging products on a platform. There's something else about, what do you feel? Because there's 2 3s here. What are you thinking with that?
I don't know. Opportunity for co-creation. 3 3s.
oh, 333.
Like win-win-win.
Yeah.
Win-win-win. There's
Yeah.
something about like taking almost like the corporate middleman out of the equation or something.
Yeah.
Like a consumer based.
Look what I pulled. Integrity card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like really keeping it in integrity, because what it made me think of is, I know of a local store. I don't want to get anyone into trouble. There's beautiful collectives out there. And what has happened sometimes, and what I've heard about, and this could happen on Etsy as well, is that there are products being sold as handmade. Meanwhile, they're being ordered from China, mass produced, and they might shift something a little bit in it and then be like, oh, here's what I handmade. So with the integrity card and what you're saying, Ashala, about a shift happening, going more into the divine feminine, this 3 collaborative space that's coming up, where it's moving it more into integrity, where it truly will be serving people as it was initially intended, like really a cleanup of who I have with. This is the first one that's coming up in my cards, but I do have archangels in here, and Archangel Uriel, the way shower, holding the lantern up, like let's move this along. I'm guiding the way to bring that integrity through.
Thank you, Anita. And you know, with so many of these inquiries, it's not about this or that. It's about this, that, and where is it evolving? What, like, threes are a lot about the evolving, the emerging next thing that grows out of, you take two things, you put them together, and it creates a new thing. And we want to keep evolving. Same with when you were talking about AI, and like, you know, we are the technology. And people have a hard time really grokking that. To me, the value of the technology is just temporary. It's transitory. It's just to get us realizing how expansive reality can be, how interconnected it can be. But we need to not get stuck on externalizing that, because we create that in here. We just need to have enough of it that it stimulates our creative imagination and gets the juices flowing. And then we need to move beyond AI. So the goal is not to get good governance and control where it's going. The goal is to just recognize that we're not stopping there for very long. It's literally a jumping point, just like transitional currency. You know, it's not the end all be all. It's a jump off point to doing something better than, like, what would it be like to be able to interact in the ways that AI is promising it'll give us all these powers? What if we could do that in the next 3 to 5 years without AI? Like, right? Like, if we can conceive it through AI, we can create it without AI, basically.
Well, it's going to be both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the other card I pulled, was Panda Power, because it's this sacred panda that has been, you know, somewhat, even though I have a yin and yang card, it is very much feeling like the representation of duality through their very loving and potent energy that has been squeezed out, why they have, you know, become one of the endangered species, and hopefully coming back. But bringing back that balance. Yeah, and even with that comment that here you posted of Angela's, how there's issues, bringing back sacred balance to the amazing technology that we are, in connecting with what you were saying, Ashala.
Definitely, yeah. So cleaning up, like, kind of removing this
some of the heartbreak that's occurred from these systems getting you know, infiltrated by the big programs, and you know, it's kind of like the barter system getting infiltrated. It's like,
yes. Like anything that's flowing or working too well that rises people, that gets hijacked by dark energies and by controllers and by people who want, let's get them back to being oppressed, and
So does that mean we just abandon these things and say, oh, another thing bit the dust? Or do we say, no, actually, we're going to clean it up because it works well? When it works well, it works well. So let's clean it up instead of just reinventing the wheel every time. How exhausting, right?
Yeah.
We do have one more question from Sandra. What message or info can help us to break out of the history repeats program? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, great question.
So good. Here you go, Crystal. Well, while you're shuffling, everybody, I just have to say I'm such a history buff, and real history, not the history that we are taught in mainstream media and in, you know, the corporate educational models, textbooks, the real history that you have to kind of really do your diligence and dig a little bit outside of the normal channels to find more information. So as we explore and expand our awareness of what has happened in the past, it allows us to acknowledge the pattern that we're in so it doesn't keep repeating. It's, you know, I've always said, and Crystal can attest to this, I've just been a fanatic about educating people historically about real, true history, because the more we know, the more we see the patterns everywhere.
And pattern recognition is huge. And interesting, I mean, I am getting cards repeating, but keep in mind that with the energy colors, that it's only one of 7. So, and then with the action ones, it's only one of 4. So there's more likely repetition, but still
Wow.
we're getting spiritual action and, you know, root chakra. So building on that foundation of, you know, tuning into the true truth through that spiritual action piece, like we're plugged in, but yet we're creating a connection to our real new foundation moving forward. And then balance card came up. So weighing the information, knowing that history is written by the victors and what we're untangling right now and bringing forward. What is repeating is a little bit of the tech piece, the large language model, which is that lots of information is being processed here, you know, and that is helping us anticipate what the next steps are. It feels like the timing of revelations, right? When we pull on something, it's like, oh, Nikola Tesla invented this a long time ago. Let's bring that technology back through of the ether,
Free energy.
free
Yeah.
energy, and then moving that. So it's like taking, you know, that sacred tech. That is something also I feel that gets inspired by, I always get shown that this energy is within us. So there might be an external invention like a Tesla coil, but that it feels like our electromagnetic being, oh, love it. Our electromagnetic being is also very much on the same principles. And then taking this up level to Christ consciousness is what came through here.
Whoa, interesting.
Yes.
Holy,
so-
holy. Okay, interesting. Well, that's curious because it's like, what version of history do we want to repeat? Right?
Well, and then that's, you know, when there's talk about the 3 Jesuses, right? There's the man, there's the myth, and then there's the consciousness. So it feels like the Christ consciousness is what maybe not even almost not connected yet. Of course, it's connected to the story of the man and the legend or the myth, but that the consciousness is the overarching, you know, perhaps connected with Jesus, but yet that could be for every amazing energy of a person who's walked on the planet could be considered under Christ consciousness or working with Christ consciousness. So taking the religion and the dogma out of it and looking at that overall energetic, those are the pieces of what to pull on to not necessarily repeat, because I almost feel like it's a renewal at this time where we're not repeating. Where we're not repeating, we're noticing the pitfalls. Where are so we don't repeat what hasn't worked before, what hasn't served. Even when we talk about like really ancient, like Lemuria or Atlantis, where we know those were fallen civilizations. So any fallen civilization has shown us that even though we don't know all the true information around it, that it's not repeating those things, so that we're actually truly energetically doing the cleanup this time.
And evolving.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks, Anita. What are you getting, Crystal?
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. It's so interesting. I mean, I don't see actually at this point how history could possibly repeat itself, like with the evolution that we've been through and the Christ consciousness that's coming in so strongly now. But what I do see is that it's like there has been, it feels like a dark night of the soul period that we're going through right now to come into, because we've kind of been here, which is our history. The emperor is very much like what a lot of our history has been based upon, and a lot of what we've gone through. And for that to kind of go underground into the deep subconscious, like how we've been programmed, and for us to go through that dark night of the soul that we're kind of in right now to discover our inner light, like the hermit here. And what comes from that, where we're almost in right now, because this is the moon here, is in the recent past, we're coming into like, this has been such a gift. Like this whole process, this whole experience that we've been undergoing, and even like what we know, what's being uncovered about history in itself, like what Mom talks about, like there's just so much that's coming up. And the energy, the Christ consciousness, as you say, that's coming through is so based upon reciprocity and like coming almost like it's the next generation. It's the children that are going to be bringing this new way forward, where it's all about reciprocity and generosity and win-win dynamics. And it's like we've never known before.
Yeah.
Like we've never experienced before. And so like the little bit of history that continues to repeat is just, I think, still that siphoning out process. And we may not experience the entirety of this in our lifetimes,
but our children will.
Absolutely.
Grandchildren, great-grandchildren will.
Absolutely.
Well, and with patterns, sometimes they're repeating just to bring our awareness to something.
Exactly.
It's not that it needs to repeat. It's like, are you really choosing this again?
Well, that's what
Or
they
not.
say, that the word prophecy is not designed to be something that's going to happen. It's designed to be a warning not to let something happen.
Ah, beautiful.
Right? So it's like we can look at history and we can say, yeah, for the last 9,000 years, we've gone through the dark age, the Kali Yuga cycle. We had to go asleep. We had to go into the dark, when Christ came 2,000 years ago and said, this is the crux. You're at the darkest part of the night now. That's why Christ came and shone the light at that exact moment and said, 2,000 years from now, when Christ said, I will return, the deeper message, I believe, is the light will return. And the light of Christ consciousness will return for everyone. You'll all start waking up from a long, dark night. And you have to start with having the courage to look at that dark stuff, right? Which is what so many of you amazing, awake truthers have been doing for the last several years, at least, is looking into all these dark, terrible nooks and crannies and just saying, I have the courage to take my lantern of truth and consciousness and look at the things that I've been too scared to look at. Other people have been too scared to look at. But that overcoming that fear and shining a light into those dark places has given us a rebirth. We are doing it. We are on the crest of history not repeating itself, but accept the history that we want to repeat, which is the Christ consciousness returning. And what we want to do is, like I said, we want to look at what's happened, see the patterns, be courageous enough to look in those dark places, but not be consumed by the darkness. So you have to go into those dark places with your lantern shining super bright, so you don't get overcome by that. And then it's a rebirth. Look at this. 2 aces, new beginnings, renewal. 2 sixes, as Crystal said, balance, reciprocity, and 6 is also the number of the Christ consciousness. And then we have this very kind of like, it looked like this was set in stone. The empire, the emperor rules the empire. We've lived at least 4,000 years of empirical, tyrannical rulership, leadership, control, power, dominance, but this guy, the longer game is the 9,000 year cycle and all those old truths resurfacing. So really, this guy, we look at empires, we look at civilizations, all of those things rise and fall very, very predictably. The eternal wisdom seeker, the soul does not rise and fall. It evolves and goes down underground and comes back up again. So we don't need to be afraid of this history. we want to really take in some of the shadow parts and integrate them into our Christ consciousness. And from that, we emerge like with this new energy renewal.
Mm-hmm. So directly answering there what Sandra was asking, you know, how to break out of history repeating itself, all of these things you've just acknowledged, right? Really being with it, being in those moments, and really keeping our awareness on our presence in every moment possible. Yes, we're going to need breaks where we dive into some distractions, maybe some guilty pleasures, you know, whether that just be taking time out for yourself, of course, is huge self-care, but it's these this allowing the information to be processed by us. Because when we talk about us being the most amazing tech on the planet, imagine harnessing that all together, right? The things that we can process and where we can get to through that reflection is powerful. That to know how much power we have that has been squashed out of us and kept us living small or just in survival mode. But when we rise out of that and allow that vision to happen, because we're creating all the time. And these threes that came up before around Etsy, right? This co-creation is really on fire for us right now. So we can step into that more and more and be like, that's not repeating, but this is, because that's beautiful Christ consciousness, that's kindness, that's caring about others. And there's that history of mine came up in my face. Yeah, okay, look at it, be with it, and not going under the rug again. This is really processing so that we're truly stepping into the new.
Well, it's interesting. We talk about the 3 energy, and then the 6 Christ consciousness, and then the 9, which is, you know, the wisdom, the elder, the spiritual seeker, the role model, the leader. So we've gone through that whole cycle, and I really feel like we're going to take the lessons from history and use them to help us grow and say goodbye to the emperor, because his era is complete. He did his job. We learned a lot about structure, rigidity, power, control, right? And we had to go through those lessons, and this is over. This is over now. This game is up. Goodbye, Emperor.
Bye.
Bye. And on that note, we say goodbye to all of you as well. So have a lovely couple of weeks, because we're going to be, tra-la-lying, not available for the next few weeks, but we'll see you here in 2 weeks' time. And please remember to, of course, like, share, and subscribe to our little YouTube channel. And also, if you would like to book a session with Crystal and or Anita, please check the links below. Our sale is going to be extended till the 24th of October.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yay.
Thank you, everyone.
Blessings. Have a beautiful week, 2 weeks. Bye for now.